Hello students, welcome to the third video session of biology. I hope you have gone through the first two videos and have a clear idea about the living world. You must know the characters that a living organism possesses, how they are classified, how they are named. In this chapter, we'll read about biological classification, how all living organisms are classified, are grouped, what are the characters on which basis they are classified. So let's go forward, and I think this video will be much more interesting than the previous two, because as we move forward the chapters are going to be very interesting. Now let's see what biological classification is. It is a process of grouping organisms according to the similarities. Means when we are grouping some organisms into certain groups, each group is having a particular type of characters, a particular type of features. They have similarities with the members of each individual groups. That means biological classification is a grouping of individuals having similar characteristics. So when there was no biological classification at all, Aristotle was first to attempt the classification. And I think you know very well who Aristotle is. He is not only a botanist, he is a zoologist also. He is a philosopher. He also has contribution to physics, chemistry, mathematics as well. So according to him, living organisms are classified into two categories. One is plant, one is animal. Again, he divided plants into three types, that is tree, shrub and herb. Tree means big plants like banyan plant, banyan tree, mango tree. Then shrubs like hibiscus, that is our China rose, banana. Herbs means very small plants like your grasses. Then comes to animals. Animals he divided into two categories, that are red-blooded animals just like us, human being whose blood is red, and another one is not red-blooded animal. That means the organisms that has blood other than red color. Example, cockroach, prawn, etc. So in this slide we have a basic idea about the first biological classification attempted by the Aristotle. So as it was the initial phase, so it was not that much popular. Still, as it was the first one, we are appreciating it. I hope you guys have already understood this and remember this. Next, come to next slide. Here comes the two kingdom classification. Two kingdom classification means all living organisms are divided into two kingdoms. So first it was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. He is very popular now because from the initial day you were studying about him only. He is such a pioneer for so many things. So he grouped the whole living world into two categories or two kingdoms, that are plants and animals. He had certain rules also. But what are the limitations? Why we are not reading the two kingdom classification? Because two kingdom classification is not what we are reading, we are going through. So first we will see what are the limitations. So limitations is what are the drawbacks of two kingdom classification, why people are not admiring this, why people are going for another classification system. So let's see what are the limitations. First one is, it does not differentiate between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. I hope you guys know about what is prokaryote, what is eukaryote. Prokaryote means primitive type of cell, a cell that does not have a true nucleus. Means prokaryotic cell does not have a true nucleus. So that means a nucleus that is not surrounded by a nuclear membrane. So this cell has a organelle like nucleus, not a true nucleus, not the nucleus that we have. That is why we are not prokaryote, we are eukaryote. And eukaryote means advanced type of cell, the cell that is having nucleus as well as other membrane bound organelles, the organelles having membranes such as endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, etc. This kingdom classification also cannot differentiate between unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular means the organism having only one cell, the organism that finishes all its work within one cell, and multicellular. Multicellular means the organism possessing more than one cell. Then comes to photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic. Photosynthetic means the organism who are autotrophs, who can produce their own food with the help of photosynthesis. You know what photosynthesis is? Trapping the sunlight to produce food. Then comes to non-photosynthetic. Non-photosynthetic means those are heterotrophs, those cannot produce food of their own, they don't trap light. So all these things, all these prokaryotes, eukaryotes, unicellular, multicellular, photosynthetic, non-photosynthetic, Linnaeus failed to categorize all these things separately. He just put a bunch of stuff, similar type stuff in plants, a bunch of similar types of stuffs in animals, because we also know that one organism is there that is neither plant nor animal. They're still photosynthetic. I hope you guys know some bacteria are still there. They are photosynthetic, but they are neither plant nor animal. But as they are photosynthetic, Linnaeus just kept these bacteria into the plant section. So that is not right. That is why two kingdom classification was not good, was not admired. So you remember what is two kingdom classification? Two kingdom classifications are between plants and animals. It was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. Now let's see five kingdom classification. As there were two kingdom classification means there were two kingdoms. Here five kingdom classification means there were five kingdoms. It was proposed by R.H. Whitaker in 1969. You have to remember this. It is very popular. It was proposed by R.H. Whitaker in 1969. As you know that it has five kingdoms. So what were the kingdoms? Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. Once more. Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. You have to remember this in the sequence, because as we move forward we will get to know why we are keeping this in this sequence, in this series. So what are the characters that the five kingdom classification is based on? So there are five characters R.H. Whitaker took to classify the whole living world into five kingdoms. First one is thallus organization. Thallus means body organization. How a living organism body is. Means it is cellular. Cellular means in one cell it will finish all its work. Or tissue level means some cells mix together to form a tissue. Or organ level, some tissue mixed together to form an organ. So lower organism usually they are cellular, because in a single cell only they can do all their metabolisms, all their body work. So that is thallus organization, means how their body is made. That means cellular or tissue level or organ level. Then comes the cell structure. What is the cell structure? What is the structure of cells? Means how the cell is made up of. Like if they are prokaryotic or eukaryotic, we know about what prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Then comes to the mode of nutrition. How they feed on, like what are the basic mode for their nutrition, as they are autotrophs or heterotrophs, they are self-dependent or not. This is the mode of nutrition. Then phylogenetic relationship means relationship with their ancestor, how they dealt with their ancestor. That is also one character. Last one is reproduction. Reproduction means they are either sexual or asexual. I think you guys all know about sexual and asexual reproduction. So these five characters are the basic characters that the five kingdom classification is based on. You have to remember this. First one is thallus organization, then cell structure, whether they are unicellular or multicellular, then mode of nutrition, whether they are autotrophs or heterotrophs, then phylogenetic relationship, how they what kind of relationship they had with their ancestors, and then reproduction, whether they are having asexual or sexual mode of reproduction. Now let's come one by one. First we'll start with kingdom Monera. As it is the first member of the five kingdom classification, we'll start with the kingdom Monera. Now see this picture. So nicely it is arranged. Now the background is so nice. It's looking like some chips. So actually these are bacteria. It is the electron microscope figure of bacteria. So when you will do research on bacteria, we'll study or we'll see the bacteria by the electron microscope, and they look exactly like this. So as we keep bacteria in the background, that means all bacteria are coming under Monera. So as bacteria were less developed, they are unicellular. All we know that means all unicellular prokaryotic bacteria are coming under kingdom Monera. Once again I am repeating, all unicellular prokaryotic bacteria are coming under kingdom Monera. You have to remember these three things. They should be unicellular, they should be prokaryotic, and all bacteria they come under kingdom Monera. Now we will study about what are the other characters that the members of kingdom Monera possess. First start with body organization. As we know that they are cellular, that means they don't have tissue. Within one cell only they do everything. Then who are the members? We have already discussed all the bacteria, blue-green algae, that is BGA. You know that it's written algae, but still they are coming under this Monera. Don't confuse it with algae. This is the name only, that algae, blue-green algae, BGA. They come under the kingdom Monera. And also remember that BGA is otherwise called as cyanobacteria. We will read about it later. Then cell type we'll see prokaryotic. That is also we have discussed. Prokaryotic means they do not have two nucleus and membrane bound organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, etc. So you can say it as a definition of prokaryotic cell. Then cell wall. As we know that all plants possess cell wall as their cell boundary. Just like that also bacteria also possess cell wall. But in plant cell the cell wall contains cellulose, but in bacteria there is no cellulose. That is why it is written in the brackets C, non-cellulosic. Rather, what is it made up of? It is made up of polysaccharides plus amino acid. You know polysaccharides? Polysaccharides means a chain of sugars, chain of monosaccharides. And amino acid means amino acids that a protein is made up of. So, if someone asks you what is the cell wall of a bacteria made up of, you will say these are non-cellulosic and made up of polysaccharides and amino acid. Next, come to the habitat. Habitat means where they stay. Where can they stay? Extreme conditions like hot springs. Hot springs means, can you imagine the temperature there? It's always above 100 degree. Then desert. Desert means you know the temperature also. Snow in glacier area, pole areas. Then deep ocean. Deep ocean means it's very salty, you know, ocean water. So all these extreme conditions where no one can live but bacteria can live. That is why we can say bacteria are omnipresent. Bacteria can live everywhere. Perhaps that is why they are having cell wall. Because if they were of our skin, so obviously they will be destroyed. That is why they are having a perfect cell wall so that they resist this such condition, extreme conditions. Then comes to nutrition. Nutrition are of two types. One is autotrophic, one is heterotrophic. Some bacteria are autotrophic and some bacteria are heterotrophic. If autotrophic, there are also two modes. They are either photosynthetic, that means they can trap sunlight to produce energy, or they can be chemosynthetic. That means they can produce energy by the oxidation of chemicals or by the oxidation of inorganic substances. That you have to remember. That will come later. So just remember, if they are autotrophic, if they can produce their own food, so they can be either photosynthetic or chemosynthetic. Both are autotrophs. Or if they are heterotrophic, that means they cannot produce their own food. They depend on others for their food. They can be either saprophytic or parasitic. Saprophytic means the organisms that depend on the dead and decaying substances for their nutrition. Means the dry leaves or dead bodies. So they cannot harm anyone, rather they are very helpful for our nature. So they depend on the dead and decaying organisms and thus clean our environment. Or parasitic. Parasitic means they are getting their nutrition by harming the host body. So if they will enter in our body, they will get the nutrition from our body and causing diseases in our body. So these are heterotrophic. I hope you guys understood what is autotrophic, what is heterotrophic. Then comes to respiration. Respiration, we know that to get the energy from the food, For us, it's kind of breathing in, breathing out. So here respiration, it can be aerobic. Aerobic means in presence of oxygen. That means they can stay in presence of oxygen, or anaerobic, in the absence of oxygen. So bacteria, most bacteria can be both aerobic or anaerobic. Some are strictly aerobic, some are strictly anaerobic, some are facultative, some are obligative. So these are so many complicated terms, so no need to remember that. Just remember that respiration can be in both modes, aerobic mode and anaerobic mode. Next, come to reproduction. Here reproduction occurs mainly by fission. Fission means one body splits into two and becomes two individual. Remember, one body splits or breaks into two and become two new individuals, just like a bacteria. A bacteria can split into two and develop into two new individuals. That is called as fission. Next, by spore, within brackets written that under unfavorable condition. That means when the bacteria cannot divide by fission, cannot reproduce by fission, they will go for the spores. Spores means small particles like substance which shed out of the bacteria body and grow into a new individual. Then sexual reproduction by transferring DNA from one to other. When they are about to do sexual reproduction, two bacteria will come closer and they will transfer their genetic material. Means they are transferring their DNA. So these are the basic reproduction techniques. So all these things we can find in the members of kingdom Monera. That means, that doesn't mean only one member it is possessing all these characters. It doesn't mean like that. So if you are taking one member from the kingdom Monera, so some of the characters must be present in it. So these are the basic characters of kingdom Monera. I hope you guys all remember this and we'll go forward. Now we will see what are the basic shapes of bacteria. So in your book it has 4 shapes. So many shapes are there, but you have to read only 4 shapes. First one is coccus. Coccus means circular shaped bacteria. In the diagram you can see. Then bacilli, these are rod shaped bacteria. In that rod shaped bacteria you can see the spores also. We can spot the spore. Spore means we read in the reproduction only. The spore can develop from a new bacteria. So that spore will shed from the mother body, then it will develop into a new bacteria. Then we'll come to vibrio. Vibrio means comma shaped. Then spirillum, those are twisted or spiral. So in that spirillum, spiral shaped bacteria, we can see a labeling called flagellum. That is a brush border like structure. So flagellum means some bacteria are there who are motile. They can move from one place to other. So for their movement, just like us, for our movement we use our limbs, we use our legs. So bacteria use their flagella to move from one side to other. So these are the basic shapes of bacteria. What are they? Coccus, circular; bacilli, rod shaped; vibrio, comma shaped; spirillum, spiral or twisted. So kingdom Monera, it has all the bacteria. The bacteria again is divided into 2 parts. One is Archaebacteria, one is Eubacteria. So when we read about Archaebacteria, you just forget about Eubacteria. First we'll finish Archaebacteria, then we'll go to Eubacteria. Don't get confused with that. In between also I am going to give you some assignments, something to search. So ready for that. First come to Archaebacteria. So Archaebacteria can be thermoacidophiles. That is such a huge name. Thermo means heat, acido means acidic, and philes means to love. The organism or the bacteria that love high temperature acidic condition, that is called thermoacidophile. You see the bracket written there, can live in hot springs. Halophiles. Halophiles means the bacteria that can survive in high salt concentration, that the bacteria those who are living in deep ocean. Then methanogen, present in marshy area, clumsy area, dirty area. They are methanogens because they can produce methane gas. You know methane gas, that is also called as biogas. So as they can produce methane, that is why they are called as methanogens. You can easily find it in marshy area or dung of any ruminant. Now let's see. They have a cell wall that is different from the other monerans, because can you guess why they are having cell wall that is different from other monerans? Because as they are living in such extreme conditions, their cell wall should be resistant to such conditions. so that it won't be harmful for them. That is why the cellular structure is very unique for the Archaebacteria. See, these methanogens are found in gut of ruminants like cow and buffalo. In buffalo and cow body it is found, and it is helpful in digestion of the grasses or leaves they are eating, because these things are having high cellulose content. So it should be digested properly. Then they help in production of biogas for the dung, from the dung of the animals. Here is written for, just corrected to from. Production of biogas for the dung of the animals, from the dung of the animals, means they can produce methane. So in village area, in gobar gas plant, we use this dung, cow dung, to produce the biogas, as there are such bacteria called as methanogen. Now it's your turn to search what are the examples of methanogens. In the next session, you should be ready with 2 names of methanogens. So it is a homework for you. Search 2 methanogens, name of 2 methanogens. Now let's come to eubacteria. See, Archaebacteria was very short. Now we will read about eubacteria. It is very broad. It will take only 3 pictures like that. So first of is, it is true bacteria. Always remember, question will come, what is the true bacteria? Eubacteria is the true bacteria because the cell wall is very rigid, very strong, and if motile, they have flagella. See, some are motile, some are non-motile. If they are non-motile, then no problem. If they are motile, then they should have flagella. So this is the very advanced type than the Archaebacteria. Archaebacteria was very primitive type, but Eubacteria is very advanced type because they have rigid cell wall, they have flagella. If they are motile, they are called Trobacteria. So who are the members of Eubacteria? Now we'll read about one member, that is Eubacteria. Of Eubacteria is BGA or Cyanobacteria, that we also called as blue-green algae. So they are autotrophs. Why? Because they can produce their own food, because they are photosynthetic, because they are having chlorophyll A. That means they can trap sunlight to produce ATP or to produce energy for their body. They are unicellular. We know that all members of Monera are unicellular. So obviously Cyanobacteria will be unicellular. And filamentous. They stay in a filament-like structure. You can see the picture aside. So this is the diagram of nostoc. Nostoc is a eubacteria. So they are staying in a colony. So colony is just looks like a filament. Then they are present in colonies surrounded by a gelatinous sheath. Now see that the gelatinous sheath means a mucus like substance that is secreted by the bacteria, and they are present inside that only. See, in the diagram is written mucilaginous sheath, that is a mucus type of covering of the colony of the bacteria. And what is the function of this bacteria? They can fix the nitrogen with the help of a structure called heterocyst. So only Cyanobacteria have a structure called heterocyst that is helpful in production, in fixing of nitrogen in nitrogen. So it is a nitrogen fixer. So 2 examples of eubacteria are Nostoc and Annabella. Now I make it easy for you guys, so you don't need to search for the example of Cyanobacteria. So it's already given, Nostoc and Annabella, but you have to only remember this thing. As some of the bacteria were photosynthetic, means photosynthetic autotrophs, just like that some of the eubacteria are chemosynthetic autotrophs or chemotrophs. As we discussed earlier, that we have said that chemosynthetic or chemotroph bacteria, they can produce ATP from chemicals or from inorganic substance. See, they release energy in the form of ATP after the oxidation of inorganic substances such as nitrates, nitrate and ammonia. I hope you guys know about what is organic substance, what is inorganic substance. So these 3 are inorganic substances, nitrite, nitrate, ammonia. I think you guys remember all the symbols such as NO2, 2 minus, or NO3, NH3. These things, they oxidize these inorganic substance and they release ATP from that. Also, they can recycle the nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron and sulfur. How they recycle? See, from the soil or from the environment, plant take these nutrients. Again, from the leaf, when the leaf shades from the tree, it will come to the soil. Again from the soil, the leaf decomposed by the bacteria and the nutrients will come into the soil. Again from the soil it will go to the tree. So it is a cyclic process. So this cycle is done by such bacteria. So these chemotrophs or chemosynthetic autotrophs, particular type of eubacteria, they help in recycling nitrogen, phosphorus, iron and sulfur. So I hope you guys remember about the chemosynthetic autotrophs or chemotrophs. Now it's your duty to Google two names of chemotrophs, those who are chemotrophs and eubacteria. Now let us see who are heterotrophs, that means who cannot produce their own food. They are the most abundant in nature. See, heterotrophs are most abundant. Majority are decomposer. They are saprophytic. They decompose the dead and or decaying organisms. They are helpful in making curd, that is lactobacillus, production of antibiotics, penicillin, some antibiotics are also produced to cure the bacterial diseases. They also help in nitrogen fixation in leguminous plant. Leguminous plant, that we eat the pulses plants. So these are the good characters of the heterotrophic bacteria. Now we'll see the bad characters. They also cause damage to crop, farm animals and pets. They can cause diseases like cholera, typhoid, tetanus, citrus canker. So as they have good characters as well as bad characters. Now it's your duty to check the examples for curd making bacteria, antibiotic producing bacteria, diseases causing bacteria, those who can fix nitrogen but are heterotrophs, these bacteria. So it is your duty. Now you have to make a list and Google all these things. At least 4 names you have to Google. What are they? Who can make curd from milk? Who can produce antibiotic? Who can fix nitrogen in the leguminous plant root? And who can cause typhoid? These 4 things you have to Google. Now let's come to the last one, but then not the least one. It is called as mycoplasma. It doesn't come under archaebacteria nor eubacteria because it doesn't have a cell wall. As you know, both archaebacteria and eubacteria, they both possess cell wall, but mycoplasma is the member of Monera, only member of Monera that doesn't have cell wall. This is the smallest organism. In question, in board or in medical entrances, question will come. What is the smallest living organism? Mycoplasma. In which kingdom it belongs? It belongs to kingdom Monera. They do not have cell wall. They can survive in anaerobic conditions too. In absence of oxygen also they can survive. They are pathogenic or they can be disease causing to animals and plants. So you have to remember this information about the mycoplasma. So what are they? Mycoplasma is the smallest living organism. It belongs to kingdom Monera. Still, it doesn't have cell wall. It can also survive in anaerobic condition or in absence of oxygen, and they are always bad. They are very pathogenic or disease causing to animals and plants. I hope you guys have a basic idea about kingdom Monera. By the end of the video, you must have known some of the examples of the members of kingdom Monera, how they survive, what are their characters, all these things. So one by one we will go to other kingdoms as well. Now, as of now, we read about kingdom Monera. Next day we will get the assignment of this, and I hope you will do all the assignments, and if any doubt arises, you can WhatsApp me or you can mail me. In our next segment, we will study about the kingdom Protista. Who are the members of kingdom Protista? So till then, all the best. Do well.